I'm just going to show you how I created this little toque. So I've made these two little toques, and one of them is just stuffed and the other one has a lint chocolate in it. So for my larger one, I've used an empty roll from my Cricut vinyl, and this roll measures approximately 1 5/8 in diameter. In the file, I've included this rectangle. It measures 3/4 of an inch in width. I'm putting it right on the edge and I'm tracing the other edge, and that's going to be my cut line. I'm taking my True Control knife and I'm going to carefully slice through my roll. I'm trying very hard not to cut myself. So that leaves me with a ring. I'm just gonna clean up the edges a little tiny bit. And I'm taking some double-sided tape and I'm wrapping it around the bottom of my ring piece like so. I just want this layered around the bottom. So I've cut these two pieces out of craft board and I'm covering one of them in glue and then just adhering it to the other to make one solid piece. And then I have some yarn. I'm taking my yarn and I'm wrapping it around that piece that I've just glued together. So I want to do it not too tightly. I'm kind of loosely wrapping it around, approximately 36 times. And then I'm just slipping my scissors underneath and cutting. I have all my strands and I have my ring. I'm going to take the liner off my double-sided tape. I'm going to take one of my strands. I'm matching up both ends so that it creates a loop. I'm inserting the loop inside my ring and then bringing it around. I'm passing the tails through that loop and then I am pulling it taut. I'm squeezing those two loops together and pressing on the double-sided tape like so. So I'm taking another strand, matching up the ends to create a loop, putting the loop through my ring, passing my ends over my ring and bringing them through the loop, and then pulling my strands taut like so. So I'm doing that again. I want these strands to be as straight as possible. Kind of want them crowded up against one another. And I'm just going to continue doing that all the way around my ring piece. So I'm putting in the last strand. Then this is number 32. So I've been able to put 32 strands along my ring. So that completes it. So now all these strands, I'm going to push them through the ring. I'm just kind of combing them straight with my fingers. And then I have this batting. So this happens to be some batting that I have on hand. If you don't have any batting, you can use tissue or tissue paper, any kind of filling. I'm holding it so that my fringe is hanging and just sort of placing it nicely around my batting. So I've got another length of that yarn and I'm knotting it and pulling it tightly over my batting. And then I'm wrapping it around again and knotting it a second time, nice and tightly. And then a third time. This time I'm doing a double knot. I'm pinching the rest of my fringe towards the top. I'm kind of cutting in a circular shape. Trim the pieces that stick out a little too much. So now I've heated up my glue gun and I've cut out a cardstock circle that's approximately the same diameter of my ring. I'm covering that piece in hot glue. I'm placing it over the bottom of my hat and just pressing down, waiting for my glue to take. And so that's one version. Now I'm going to work on the version that has the chocolate as stuffing inside of the batting. So I have that same template piece, both pieces out of craft board again, and I'm stacking them on top of one another to make a nice solid piece. I'm going to wrap my yarn around approximately 30 times. I'm running my scissors underneath one side of that yarn and just cutting right through. And in the file, you're going to find this piece. So I'm using a container that has approximately a 1-inch diameter, and I'm rolling my piece of craft board around to give it its shape. I'm putting glue from the score line to the end on that tab, and then I'm bringing the other end over and I'm gluing the cut edge to the score line on that tab. So it's a much smaller version of what I cut off my vinyl roll. I'm using some narrower double-sided tape for this version, and I'm just running it around the bottom of my ring piece. I'm removing the liner on my double-sided tape. I'm doing the exact same thing as I did for the larger version, so making sure that the ends meet up. I'm putting the loop in the center of my ring, bringing the tails over, inserting them into my loop, and then pulling them so that they're tight. And I'm pushing down on that double-sided tape so that they stay put. I'm taking a second strand and I'm doing the same thing. So the loop goes in my ring piece, the tail goes through the loop. I'm pulling them so that they are tight. Those strands are tightly wound around my ring piece, and then I'm moving on to my next piece. I'm going to keep doing the exact same thing until my ring is completely covered. Right, so now I'm taking my 27th strand. That's how many I've been able to fit around this ring, and I'm going to place it on that last little bit. There's full coverage all around the ring piece, and then I'm taking that whole fringe and I'm stuffing it inside my ring and poking everything through, and then I'm pulling on them a little, combing them out with my fingers, and then I'm inserting my candy inside. So the candy is instead of the stuffing on the last version. I'm taking another strand, I'm wrapping around all those strands at the top of my candy, and then I'm making a knot. And then I'm going to flip my piece over and bring my tails over to the other side. This time I'm making a double knot, and then I'm trimming my pom-pom. I'm just sort of trimming it in like a circular shape. It's kind of a rounded shape, like so. So those are the two different versions, the ones with the stuffing and the ones with the chocolate. Then I decided to make a much larger one. I cut the ring piece off a spool of ribbon, and I used an even longer template for my yarn. I also used some iron-on vinyl to put the name of the recipient on some ribbon. It's approximately 11 inches of ribbon. I'm at the stage where I've put my fringe through the ring. I want to turn my little hat into an ornament, so I have this ribbon as a holder. I've folded it in half, and I'm putting the loop section through the center of my ring, just like I did for the fringe pieces. I'm going to put hot glue on one end of my ribbon, and I'm going to place it against one side of my ring and then just glue that in place. And then I'm going to put glue on the other end and glue it directly opposite on the ring, so it's just across. So I'm putting my batting inside, flip my piece over. So I'm looking at my ribbon, moving my fringe out of the way. I'm bringing my ribbon together at the top of my batting. So I'm putting a little bit of hot glue to bring those pieces of ribbon together, just pinching them together. And then I'm brushing my fringe into place with my fingers. So for the rest, I'm continuing along pretty much as I did for the other versions. And so now I'm being very conscious of that ribbon. And so just like for the other ones, I'm just trimming my pom-pom, being very careful not to cut into the ribbon. And this is the version of my hat that you can hang from your Christmas tree.